Welcome to Peaceful Soul, a small but nurturing space where serenity resides. Here, we share scientific knowledge, everyday stories, and deep personal reflections to help nurture a strong and healthy mind. If you're looking for a place to be heard, to be understood, and to heal, then you've come to the right place. Together, let us begin this journey of caring for mental health, because a peaceful soul is the foundation of a truly happy life. Today, we begin by exploring mental health and the harmful misconceptions that have led so many to neglect their inner well-being. One of the most common questions is, does poor mental health mean someone has low intelligence? In society, there is still a prevailing belief that people struggling with mental health challenges are less intelligent, lack resilience, or are simply too weak to handle life. At first glance, it may sound convincing. Strong people push through hardships while the weak collapse. But in reality, this is a dangerous misconception. It not only fuels stigma against those facing mental illness but also forces countless individuals to suffer in silence, too afraid to seek help. I want to begin with the story of Michael, a gifted software engineer in the United States. Michael was a top student at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, with an IQ above 130 and a reputation for exceptional creativity. He worked at one of the world's leading tech companies, surrounded by some of the brightest minds on the planet. Yet few knew that, after years of relentless pressure, Michael fell into severe depression. He struggled with chronic insomnia, lost passion for his work, and at times even contemplated giving up on everything. Does this mean Michael was less intelligent or weak? Of course not. He was still brilliant, but brilliance alone could not shield him from the heavy toll of psychological stress and environmental pressures. Michael's story is far from unique. The World Health Organization, WHO, has reported that 1 in 4 people worldwide will experience a mental health issue at some point in their lives. By 2020, nearly 450 million people across the globe were living with mental or neurological disorders. These numbers reveal a truth we cannot ignore. Mental illness is not rare. And it does not discriminate. It can affect anyone, regardless of intelligence, education, social status, or income. It's crucial to understand that mental health is not simply the absence of illness. It is a state of balance, a person's ability to think clearly, learn, empathize, and maintain healthy relationships. A person with good mental health is like a sturdy tree in the wind. Storms may shake the branches, but the roots remain strong. On the other hand, when mental health falters, even ordinary life challenges can feel overwhelming and lead to collapse. Over the years, I have met many highly intelligent, accomplished individuals who nevertheless faced severe mental health crises. These experiences taught me that intelligence and mental health do not move hand in hand. Think of intelligence as the powerful engine of a car, while mental health is the steering and braking system. No matter how powerful the engine, without functioning controls, the car cannot move safely. And so, starting from this widespread but mistaken belief, I invite you to take a deeper look at the myths surrounding mental health. Only by seeing clearly and understanding correctly can we truly care for ourselves and our communities. And only then can we dismantle the invisible barriers that keep so many from reaching out for help when they need it most. So, what are the common misconceptions about mental health? Let's explore them right now. In my professional journey, I often encounter patients, and even colleagues, friends, and people around me, who still hold many misconceptions about mental health. These beliefs may seem harmless at first, but in reality, they can cause significant harm. They make patients feel stigmatized, isolated, and worse, prevent them from seeking the support they truly need. Now, let's take a look at the most common misconceptions and analyze why they are wrong. Misconception number 1. Only weak people suffer from mental illness. This is probably the most common belief I've heard. People often assume that those who are strong can overcome anything, and only the weak fall into depression or anxiety. But science has proven this to be completely false. Depression, anxiety, or other mental disorders are not the result of weak character. They are linked to imbalances in neurotransmitters, changes in brain structure and activity, as well as genetic and environmental factors. I'd like to share the story of Jennifer, an American law student I met during a research exchange. Jennifer was brilliant, passionate, and always at the top of her class. Yet in her final year of college, she developed severe depression. People around her told her, "You're too sensitive," or, "You need to be stronger." These words only made her feel like a failure. It wasn't until she saw a psychologist and received proper treatment that she realized her illness had nothing to do with strength or weakness. It was a medical condition, just like any other, that required care. A Harvard study found that over 30% of first-year college students experienced at least one episode of severe anxiety or depression. These are young, healthy, ambitious individuals, not weak people. This further proves how baseless this misconception is. Misconception number 2. Smart, wealthy, or highly educated people don't get mental illness. Another widespread error in society is believing that successful, intelligent people with social status are immune to mental illness. Many think that money, knowledge, and prestige automatically protect someone from depression or anxiety. The reality is the exact opposite. Robin Williams, the beloved Hollywood comedian, is a heartbreaking example. Despite his talent and brilliance that brought joy to millions, he battled depression for years. Eventually, he chose to leave this world in despair. His death was a painful reminder that intelligence, fame, and wealth cannot shield anyone from mental illness. In the medical field where I once worked, the rate of depression among doctors is also high. A study in the U.S. revealed that nearly 30% of medical residents had symptoms of depression, a rate no lower than the general population. This proves that even those with deep knowledge of mental health are not immune. Misconception number 3. Strong people don't need therapy. Many people believe that sheer willpower is enough to overcome any psychological challenge. But this is another dangerous misunderstanding. Mental strength and mental health are two very different concepts. Someone may have immense resilience, yet still not be immune to mental disorders. David Goggins, a former U.S. Navy SEAL and world-renowned endurance athlete, openly shared his struggles with psychological trauma and PTSD. Despite being a symbol of resilience, he still needed therapy and psychological support to regain balance in his life. Telling someone with depression to just be strong is like telling a diabetes patient to think positive and your blood sugar will stabilize. Not only is it unhelpful, but it also belittles the patient's suffering. Misconception number 4. Teenagers with mental health issues are the result of bad parenting. Another common misconception is blaming parents. When a child shows signs of anxiety or depression, people are quick to assume something must be wrong at home. But the truth is, a child's mental health is influenced by multiple factors. Poverty, unemployment in the family, bullying at school, academic pressure, and social media comparisons all can contribute to risk. A U.S. study found that nearly 30% of high school students had considered suicide. And this included those from supportive families. I once treated a boy named Ethan, who came from a happy family where both parents were teachers. Despite this, Ethan was constantly bullied at school about his appearance. The relentless pressure pushed him into depression, even though his parents did everything to help. His story shows we cannot simply blame parents when a child struggles with mental health. Misconception number 5. People with mental illness are violent. The media often sensationalizes crimes by highlighting when the perpetrator has a history of mental illness. This creates a distorted image that most mentally ill individuals are dangerous. But scientific research shows the opposite. According to a study from King's College London, people with depression or anxiety are no more likely to commit violence than anyone else. In fact, they are often victims of violence rather than perpetrators. Unfortunately, because the rare cases linked to mental illness are overexposed by the media, stigma only deepens. One of my patients once confessed that he avoided telling anyone about his anxiety disorder, fearing they'd see him as dangerous. This fear led him to isolate himself, worsening his condition. This is the heavy price society pays for false stereotypes. From these misconceptions, we see that misunderstanding often stems from ignorance and society's tendency to label what it doesn't understand. Each misconception is like an invisible wall preventing those who suffer from seeking help. Only when we recognize mental health as a natural part of human health, just like cardiovascular or respiratory health, can stigma gradually disappear. Don't go anywhere, because right now, we'll uncover the answer to the question, what truly causes mental health problems? After years of practice and research, I've realized that one of the biggest misconceptions about mental health is the belief that, as long as you're strong, you won't develop psychological issues. This idea is like saying that if someone is physically fit, they could never develop heart disease or diabetes. In reality, medicine is far more complex. Mental health doesn't simply depend on willpower, it is shaped by an intricate web of biological, psychological, and social factors. 1. Biological factors. When the body speaks. From a medical standpoint, we cannot ignore the role of the brain and nervous system. The brain controls every thought, emotion, and behavior we have. Any imbalance in its functioning can trigger disorders. For instance, low levels of serotonin and dopamine, two critical neurotransmitters, can make a person more vulnerable to depression or loss of interest in life. Take the story of Sarah, an American teacher I once worked with. She was passionate about her job, intelligent, and deeply dedicated to her students. But after enduring long-term work stress combined with the challenges of giving birth, Sarah began showing signs of postpartum depression. Science has proven that fluctuations in estrogen and progesterone levels after childbirth can strongly affect brain activity, leading to prolonged sadness and even difficulty caring for oneself or a baby. This had nothing to do with Sarah's determination or intelligence. It was a direct result of biological changes in her body. Genetics also play a significant role. Numerous studies have shown that if mental illness runs in a family, future generations face a higher risk of experiencing similar conditions. This isn't an unchangeable fate, but it is a reminder that biology and inheritance deserve serious attention. 2. Psychological factors. The mirror of the inner self. Beyond biology, psychological experiences are deeply influential. Childhood experiences, how we were raised, the presence of love or exposure to violence, all leave lasting marks. A child who grows up in a household full of conflict and neglect faces a much higher risk of developing anxiety or depression later in life. I recall the case of David, a successful American entrepreneur who constantly battled a fear of failure. After many sessions, we discovered that in childhood, David was often compared to his older brother. Whenever he failed to get top grades, he was harshly criticized. Those memories became psychological scars, leaving him with an enduring fear of judgment and imperfection. Even though he thrived in his career, David lived with daily anxiety and obsessive worry. His story illustrates how psychological experiences silently shape the way we view ourselves in the world. 3. Social factors, the invisible pressures around us. We also cannot forget that humans are social beings. Each of us exists within a web of relationships, constantly shaped by our environment. Financial stress, overwhelming workloads, unemployment, divorce, or loneliness can all become triggers for mental health crises. During the COVID-19 pandemic, millions of people worldwide faced both health and financial losses. I once received a call from Robert, a middle-aged man who had lost his job. His family was struggling, and months of social isolation only worsened his situation. Over time, Robert became withdrawn, lost hope for the future, and fell into depression. His story reflects how powerfully social circumstances can impact mental well-being. None of us lives in a vacuum. We are directly affected by the environment around us. 4. The complex interplay, when factors overlap. What's crucial to understand is that these factors rarely exist in isolation. More often, they overlap and interact with one another. For example, someone with a genetic predisposition to mental illness might never develop it if they grow up in a warm, supportive family environment. Conversely, a person who is biologically healthy may still fall into crisis under constant work pressure and a lack of emotional support. Medicine refers to this as the biopsychosocial model. It explains that mental health is determined by the combined influence of three main axes: biology, psychology, and society. Any imbalance in one of these areas can disrupt the whole system. When we understand this mechanism, we realize that mental health problems are far from simple. They are not signs of weakness or ignorance but the result of complex interactions between our biology, mind, and social environment. And from a scientific perspective, this also means that we have the ability to intervene, adjust, and support recovery, rather than criticize or abandon those who are struggling. For many years working in the clinic, as well as teaching and conducting research, I have had the privilege of meeting hundreds of patients. each with their own unique story. Every individual carried a private pain. Yet when we look closely, we begin to see that all of those struggles reflect universal patterns of mental health. These stories not only left a profound impression on me but also offered invaluable lessons, helping me understand more deeply the complexity of the human mind. I once shared the story of Sarah, a young teacher who faced postpartum depression after giving birth. At that time, Sarah often felt like a terrible mother. She lost confidence in herself and barely had the energy to care for her baby. Her family, at first, did not understand what was happening. They dismissed her struggles, telling her she was simply too weak or overthinking. It wasn't until she came in for a proper examination that we discovered the underlying cause, a combination of postpartum hormonal changes and prolonged sleep deprivation. With the right medical treatment, and more importantly, with the patient support of her husband and parents, Sarah slowly recovered. The lesson here is clear. Timely understanding and support from family can be just as vital as medication. Sometimes, a simple hug, or the act of listening without judgment, can save someone from falling into the depths of despair. Another story is about David, a successful American businessman who, on the outside, seemed to have everything, yet success did not protect him from inner turmoil. He constantly feared failure, and whenever he had to speak in public, he suffered from intense anxiety attacks. Through therapy, we traced these fears back to his childhood. David had grown up in a family that placed extremely high expectations on him and constantly compared him to his older brother. Those repeated criticisms planted a deep belief in his mind that he would never be good enough. What struck me most is how childhood wounds do not simply disappear with time. Instead, they can silently shape a person's entire life. David's story reminds us of the importance of mindful parenting. Even words that seem harmless at the time can leave scars that last for decades in a child's heart. During the COVID-19 pandemic, I also met Robert, a middle-aged man who fell into crisis after losing his job and being forced into months of social isolation. He became withdrawn, struggled with relentless insomnia, and gradually sank into depression. When Robert finally sought help, what he needed went beyond medication. He needed a network of human connection. We encouraged him to join online support groups, where people facing similar struggles could share their stories. That sense of community gave Robert something essential, the knowledge that he was not alone. Alongside medical care, this social support helped him gradually recover and find a new direction in life. Robert's experience is a powerful reminder that mental health is not solely an individual issue. It is closely tied to our communities and the broader society. Human beings are wired for connection, and when communities take care of each other, the silent suffering of many can be significantly reduced. Looking back at these stories, I realize an important truth. Science gives us the tools to diagnose and treat. But it is the human element, listening, understanding, and compassion, that allows true healing to take place. Mental health cannot rely on medication alone. It requires the companionship of family, friends, and community. The greatest lesson I carry with me is this: never underestimate someone's pain simply because you cannot see it. A wound of the soul can be just as painful, sometimes even more devastating, than a physical injury. And if we learn to combine modern medicine with compassion, the journey of healing becomes far lighter and far more possible. When it comes to healing mental health challenges, many people immediately think of medication. And it's true. Modern medicine has shown us that medication plays an important role, helping to restore balance to neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. But medication is not a magic fix that can solve everything. I often compare it to a walking cane. It can help patients stay steady during difficult times. But to truly go the distance and recover, they need more than that. One of the most important approaches is psychotherapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, helps patients identify negative thought patterns and change how they respond to them. Acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, encourages people to face uncomfortable emotions instead of avoiding them, while still staying true to their core values. Psychoanalytic therapy, on the other hand, digs deeper into early life experiences to understand how childhood memories can continue shaping the present. I once treated David, a businessman trapped by perfectionism, by combining CBT with exploration of his childhood memories. This process helped him realize that the thought, "I'm never good enough," wasn't the truth, but simply an echo of the past. With that awareness, he began to see himself with more fairness, kindness, and compassion. Beyond individual therapy, social connection is another key factor. Group therapy allows patients to share and listen to each other's experiences, helping them realize they're not alone. During the pandemic, I encouraged Robert to join an online therapy group. Through open conversations, he gradually felt less isolated and rediscovered his motivation for life. Robert's case reminds us that sometimes, the power of human connection can be even more healing than a prescription. Alongside therapy and medication, everyday lifestyle choices have a profound impact on mental health. A good night's sleep restores the brain, balances hormones, and sharpens memory. Regular physical activity boosts the release of endorphins, the brain's natural, feel-good chemicals. A diet rich in vegetables, omega-3s, and low in refined sugar can help stabilize mood. And above all, mindfulness practice brings us back to the present moment, easing the grip of past regrets and future worries. I often tell my patients, never underestimate the power of a balanced meal or a simple 30-minute walk. These small, consistent habits may seem insignificant at first, but over time, they accumulate into powerful results. In the past decade, exciting new methods have emerged, offering hope to patients who once felt trapped. Deep brain stimulation has been tested in cases of treatment-resistant depression. Light therapy has shown effectiveness in addressing seasonal affective disorder, and digital health tools now allow patients to track their moods, practice breathing exercises, and connect with professionals more quickly than ever before. While some of these approaches are still in development, they reflect the growing progress and diversity of modern mental health care. What I've learned after many years in practice is this: there is no single method that works for everyone. Every patient carries a unique story, and healing must be personalized, blending precise science with compassionate care. Mental health is not a destination, it is a lifelong journey. And science, when it walks hand in hand with humanity, can truly become the light that guides us on the path to recovery. Now, let's explore the role of family and community in the healing process. In treating and recovering from mental health challenges, there's one powerful factor that's often overlooked: the role of family and community. Many people believe that conditions like depression, anxiety, or bipolar disorder can only be managed through doctors and medication. But in my experience, patients who receive strong support from their families and communities not only recover faster, but they also relapse less often, and perhaps most importantly, they no longer feel alone on their difficult journey. Family is where a person first learns safety and connection. When a patient comes home after a hard day, what they need isn't just another prescription. They need a hug, a warm meal, or simply someone willing to listen. In psychiatry, we often call this attachment-based therapy. A mother who patiently listens, a husband who doesn't judge, a child who shows genuine care. These create a natural healing environment that no hospital can ever replace. I once treated Linda, a high school teacher in Chicago who suffered from postpartum depression. What worked wonders for her wasn't just medication or therapy, it was her husband's patience. Every day, he walked with her, shared the household chores, and reminded her that her sadness was only temporary. With that steady support, Linda recovered quickly and later became an inspiration for other new mothers. Beyond the family, the community plays a critical role. Someone with anxiety may feel cut off from the world, but joining a support group can help them see they are not alone. I remember Robert, a veteran who had served in the Middle East and struggled with PTSD. For years, he tried to hide his pain, but when he joined a veterans support group, he finally found people who truly understood him. Hearing fellow soldiers talk about nightmares and fears helped him realize he wasn't weak. That community gave him the strength to continue treatment and eventually to rebuild his faith in life. In modern medicine, we increasingly emphasize the concept of community mental health. This isn't just about treating individuals, it's about building healthier environments where patients feel accepted, respected, and encouraged to participate. When communities reduce stigma, people feel less shame and are more willing to seek help. In fact, research shows that in communities with open attitudes and strong support programs, rates of depression relapse are significantly lower. The key is for families and communities to walk alongside patients without judgment. Many patients have told me they hesitate to open up, fearing they'll be seen as weak or crazy. But the truth is, the words and attitudes of those around us can make a world of difference. A single word of encouragement at the right moment can pull someone back from despair. I often remind families that sometimes silent presence, an empathetic look, or simply sitting together can be enough to make a struggling person feel supported. Looking at the bigger picture, the community's role extends into schools, workplaces, and social organizations. A supportive school environment allows students to share their struggles more openly. A company that listens to employees and promotes healthy work-life balance can prevent burnout. Nonprofits that offer workshops, support groups, or hotlines often act as the extended arms of the community, saving countless people from moments of hopelessness. After many years of practice, I believe true healing doesn't just happen in prescriptions or therapy rooms. It happens in the warm kitchen of a family home, in the safe circle of a support group, and in the compassionate gestures of society. Family and community are not just the backdrop of recovery, they are the very heart of it. Because when someone knows they are loved and understood, even invisible wounds of the soul have a chance to heal. In today's society, there's a group of people whose voices carry an extraordinary influence on public awareness: artists and public figures. Their voices don't just resonate in art, sports, or entertainment. They can also become guiding lights for millions who are struggling in the darkness of mental health challenges. In fact, many well-known artists have openly shared their battles with depression, anxiety, or periods of deep emotional crisis. When a famous singer, an A-list actor, or a legendary athlete finds the courage to say, "I've suffered too. I've hit rock bottom," suddenly millions of fans feel understood, and no longer ashamed to seek help. Take Demi Lovato, for example. She has been open about her struggles with depression and addiction. Her story isn't just about tears on stage, it became a source of courage for millions of young people to step into the light and admit, "I need help too." Or consider Michael Phelps, the greatest swimmer of all time, who revealed that after retirement, he fell into severe depression and even contemplated ending his life. But his honesty sparked a wave of awareness around athletes' mental health, an issue often ignored under the pressure to always be strong. These voices hold a special power because they shake long-standing stigmas. When a doctor like me talks about depression, people may see it as clinical information. But when someone they admire, someone they thought was perfect, dares to reveal the cracks in their soul, the message becomes alive. If they can go through it, then I'm not alone. And many celebrities don't just share their stories, they go further. They become advocates, founding charities, launching campaigns, and leading fundraising efforts to raise awareness for mental health. They've helped bring concepts like therapy and support groups closer to the public, especially to younger generations. From a medical perspective, the courage of artists and public figures works like a community medicine. It doesn't heal directly, but it opens the door for millions to seek healing. It proves that recovering from mental health struggles is not just an individual journey, it's a collective effort, where public voices can change entire cultures. From years of practice and research, I've realized that mental health is not just a personal issue, it's a mirror reflecting society as a whole. Families, communities, healthcare systems, and yes, even artists, all form vital links in the chain of recovery. The solution isn't only about expanding healthcare services, offering more therapy, or developing new medications. More importantly, we need to build a culture that listens, a society where people can admit their pain without fear of judgment. We need mental health education in schools, humane workplaces, and more community campaigns to break stigma. Above all, we must encourage each of us to become a companion. Because sometimes, a hug, a simple, "Are you okay?" or a moment of genuine listening can literally save a life. As I close this chapter, I want to leave you with this message. Mental health is not a luxury, it is a basic human right. No one deserves to suffer in silence. Each of us can be part of the solution. If you are struggling, remember, you are not alone. If you see someone falling, reach out your hand, and if you have influence, use it to shine a light for those walking through the dark. Let's act, starting today. Talk about mental health more openly. Seek support when you need it. Care for your loved ones and friends. Each small step, when multiplied, becomes a wave of change, a more compassionate society where everyone has the chance to heal. And if you found this video meaningful, hit like to spread the message. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell, so you can stay with us on this journey toward better mental health.